Hello everyone and welcome back to round 6 of the Maia Chess Open tournament. Today was quite a crazy day. So first, today the round started at 10 a.m. So yesterday I just went to sleep very early compared to normal times. I went to bed like 11 p.m. and then I woke up early so that I could prepare for my next round, as it started 10 a.m. so it was a pretty early one. And the reason why is because there are lots of activities planned today. One of them being that there was a streamers blitz tournament, so we will have a lot of content from that coming up later, but it was super awesome, super fun. More on that in other videos, but now in this video we're going to talk about round 6 of my classical chess tournament here in Maia. And this round was quite something. So I faced José Francisco Veiga. It's a very long name. Portuguese people are apparently known to have very long names, and sometimes it doesn't fit on the overlay or on the score sheet, so yeah, we have to shorten it sometimes. But my opponent is a very strong local player, rated 2385, international master, and I knew that it was a tough challenge, but I knew that I also had chances because I just beat a 2450 rated player, and I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling confident. My opponent lost to 2000 players, so I thought maybe I have a chance, you know? So anyway, my opponent went for the move e4, and I went for e6. So I thought this time I want to play e6, and also I didn't have so much time to prepare, so I had to make a quick decision, and I saw that my opponent almost always plays d4, d5, e takes d5, so exchange French. And I thought exchange French is not really challenging, and there's a specific line that my opponent tends to play here, so I thought I'm just going to check what I'm supposed to do against that, and that's it. So my opponent plays knight f3, here I play bishop d6, and here my opponent went for the move c4. So here I go knight f6 to defend the pawn on d5, and here my opponent went for the move knight to c3. And here I was already forgetting what exactly the move order was that I was preparing, what I had prepared, because I was going through some lines and it started to get really messy in my head, so I wasn't entirely sure anymore what I was supposed to do here. So I just went for short castles after thinking, well, a short castle here, and after c takes e5, this is when I started thinking a lot, because I wasn't entirely sure about my lines anymore. I was getting confused a little bit, and I think I had to play knight bd7 over here. I was confused between bishop b4 and rook e8, and ultimately I went for the move rook e8 check first, because I thought, okay, I'm forcing bishop e2, and that's better than having the bishop on d3, right? So if the bishop is on d3, it's much better place. So I thought that's maybe why I have to force bishop e2, and that could be better for me. I played knight bd7, short castles, and now knight b6. So I'm attacking the pawn on d5. My opponent goes for bishop g5. I am playing h6, and I remember this was a very important inclusion for some reason. Bishop h4. The reason is somewhere down the line it can be useful to have some luft for the king, right? Always useful to avoid any sort of back rank issues in the long run. And here I went to bishop e7. So the idea behind bishop e7 is that I am unpinning myself on this diagonal, and I'm basically going to capture this pawn on the next move. So my opponent went for knight e5, and here I took with the f knight. Now, here is the thing. The one thing that I'm not happy about here is my time management, because I spent 12 minutes on this very move. And the reason why I spent 12 minutes is because I couldn't figure out which way I wanted to take, with the knight on b6 or the other knight on f6. And I think I should be making those decisions much faster, especially now that I see that the computer is saying that both are around the same evaluation. I should just make those decisions much quicker, because if I spend so much time on these kind of moves, I get into issues later on. So I really need to work on my time management here. Later on, you will see why. I took with the f knight, knight f takes d5, bishop g3. Of course, my opponent doesn't want to trade pieces. We're in an isolated queen's pawn situation where white wants to keep pieces on the board and start attacking on my king preferably, and I want to trade pieces and get into an endgame so there's no attack and that the pawn on d4 will become very weak. So I took on c3 after some thought. I wasn't entirely sure about what to do here. I didn't want to just develop pieces. It didn't feel right to play bishop e6. It feels like the attack from my opponent can be done pretty easily, so I didn't want to play too safe here, too natural. Maybe c6 would have been a better move right here, but I decided to take on c3 because I thought after b takes c3, I'm playing bishop e6 first, but after bishop d3, I'm going for c5. So I'm trying to mess my opponent's pawn structure up, and I thought that could be really good for me. Bishop c2 is what my opponent played. I was expecting these kind of moves because my opponent's preparing to move queen to d3 to threaten checkmate, and it's actually really difficult to defend against this. I was thinking of c takes d4, simply taking on d4, and I knew that my opponent would go for queen to d3, but here I was thinking, okay, I have g6, but after g6, knight takes g6, and I'm getting checkmated probably, and if I play f5, this is one way to completely shut down that diagonal, but I thought, yeah, if I do this, it's quite a commitment, and I'm not sure how to feel about this, and I didn't like that my opponent always had bishop b3 type of move, so this pawn f5 is very weak, and I really didn't like this. So that's why I really didn't want to go for this. It didn't feel right. So after a long thought here as well, I went for move c4. And the reason why is because I would simply want to stop any of the queen d3 and bishop b3 type of moves. And if my opponent really wants to have the queen and bishop on that diagonal together, then bishop b1 is possible, but that looks so passive. Blocking the rook on a1 didn't really feel like the right idea, right? So instead of bishop b1, my opponent went for rook b1, which is a really clever move. I did not quite expect this, but yeah, it caught me off guard because my opponent is basically targeting that pawn on b7 in the long run. I played bishop f6 because I just didn't really see what else to do. My opponent went for queen f3. And this also really caught me off guard because I didn't expect this move. The pawn is under attack and I have a really hard time defending this actually. And apparently I'm supposed to give up the pair of bishops already here, but that's not easy to decide to do. I played the move queen to d5. I was seeing that after bishop e4, queen a5, I'm deliberately losing the pawn for some counterplay, for some activity here. So bishop takes b7, I play bishop d5, and here I'm losing the pawn, but I knew that I was going to trade off those bishops, and that bishop, the light squared bishop of white, is really annoying. So I thought if I get rid of that bishop, then at least I have some counterplay, because those pawns of white are also quite weak. The pawn a2 and pawn c3, they are both very weak, and if c3 falls, then d4 also becomes very weak, right? So I thought I had something going on here, at least some counterplay. Bishop takes d5, queen takes d5. I don't want to take with the knights because yeah, that's losing a piece after knight takes c4, and I can't defend that knight on d5. It's just going to get lost. After queen d8, there's knight d6. Really annoying. Yeah, I'm losing a piece. So that's why I'm just trading, well, taking with the queen, hoping for a queen trade, because if the queens will be traded off, then I'm really happy. Attacking the rook on b1, bishop takes d4 is a threat as well, knight e2 check also incoming, so I'm just taking the pawns and we are most likely going to make a draw here. So, of course, my opponent doesn't want to trade, my opponent retreats with queen d1, and he went for queen a5. I didn't really know what to do, down to 4 minutes, this is move 22, so we're already in time trouble situation, sort of, and it's really difficult to find the right moves here. So I thought I'm just attacking both these pawns and hope for the best. But I do have to say that moves such as knight g4 seemed really annoying to me. I really didn't like the attack on my bishop. It felt really unsafe there. But fortunately, my opponent went for rook b4, and now my pawn on c4 is under attack. Apparently, I could have taken on a2 here, but I was a bit scared and I thought my queen is a bit stranded there and I didn't really see how to get out of this. But apparently, I could have taken on a2, but instead I went for rook ac8. Now, of course, my opponent went for a4. And here I went for a6 because I wanted to stop any sort of rook b5, you know? So here my opponent went for queen f3. Back, bishop takes e5. I really want to play knight to d5, but I really didn't like that my pawn on c4 was getting lost, or that there is even rook b7. I really hated rook b7 because the attack on the f7 pawn is huge. I cannot take on e5 because queen takes f7 and my position is collapsing here. So yeah, that's why I didn't want to play knight to d5. I didn't want to allow any sort of rook b7. So instead I decided to take on e5 after all. After so many moves of being able to play bishop takes e5, I finally decided to get rid of that knight because that knight is just a pain. But instead I'm now facing a strong bishop. So yeah, it's not much better, but it helps at least something because now I can breathe with rook e6, rook fb1, knight to d7. I just wanted to attack that bishop and try to get rid of it. And also I felt like my knight was not safe anymore on b6. So I moved it, bishop g3, knight f6, h3. And here I thought, okay, queen d5. I'm trying to trade queens because once again, if queens are traded, I'm attacking the rook on b4, the pawn on c3 is under attack, and I'm feeling pretty good about my chances here, right? To at least make a draw, at least. So rook b8 was played, and here I decided to take. I had no time. We're playing on seconds here. Both of us, we're on down to 50 seconds. This is move 30. So the next 10 moves are made with very low time. Rook takes b8 check, king h7. And here, my opponent could have traded queens, but my opponent really didn't want to trade queens. Went back for rook c8 instead. In case I decide to trade, then the pawn on c4 will drop and it's just a lost position. So of course I don't trade. I saw a really epic idea. The computer's already pointing out this check. That's the move I played. But the idea behind this move is not just to give a check. There is something more behind this. King h2, knight to e4, rook to c5. And you may think, oh no, I can't take because my knight is pinned, so I cannot move my knight, I have to move my queen. No. Knight to d2. I played knight d2 and I was like, this is crazy. I was so happy, so excited that I could make this super cool move because the thing is, two pieces are attacking my queen and they can take my queen for free. But after queen takes e5, knight f1 check, and my opponent cannot escape those checks. I'm just going back and forth and it's a draw. So that's why my opponent could not take that queen on d5 at all. But they had one resource, queen e2. Now I don't have knight f1 check anymore because after knight f1, my opponent will simply capture this and I'm losing the piece. So I can't do that. Well, here, with my 39 seconds on the clock, I was calculating, and I couldn't figure it out. And eventually, I decided that I need to grab a pawn with me because the queen trade is now forced. And if we have a queen trade, I'm down a pawn, so I need to get a pawn. And I took on g2. And as you can see from the eval part, this is the losing move. Apparently, I should have taken the queen right away because after rook is e5, I just go back. Same idea. Knight f1 check, king g1, rook e1, let's say. And it's basically the same idea. And it's not so easy for my opponent to play here at all. So apparently there's only two moves that are drawing. Moving the f-pawn, which is crazy. Because knight e3 is the threat, attacking the rook. And knight takes g3 is also a threat, winning the piece, and the king cannot move. So now my opponent would have to play something like f4 to sacrifice the bishop, and after king f2, then I have a chance to win c3, and that should be quite easy to draw. Seeing those lines just makes me even more sad, you know? Because it makes a lot of sense. I set this idea up. I have so much time to spend on this, but I put so much effort into creating this idea, and now I can come back to the same idea, but without the queens on the board, and I just don't find it at all. I don't know. It's so depressing. And instead queen takes g2, and here I'm just throwing the game away, because after king takes g2, rook takes e2, What I forgot about is that my opponent has an extra pawn on the d file, and that pawn is just vroom, promoting very soon. I thought, okay, let's try to be clever with f5, f4, and hope that knight e4 is enough, but of course it's not enough. Well, here's the thing. My opponent went for a d7 on the 14th move. And after rook takes f2, we reached move 40 here. So we have 30 minutes now. Finally, we're done with the time scramble. After king g1, me, with my potato brain, thought it was a really good idea to play rook takes f4. Move 41. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. Well, I know what I was thinking, but it was not good. Basically, I was calculating, I was calculating some lines. I thought, knight takes c5, my rook is hanging, nah. I think what I forgot to realize is that this pawn, I don't know, did I realize it was hanging here, that after king takes f2, I'm just taking it? Or maybe I thought that this endgame is still lost. I'm up a pawn here. How can I be lost here? I don't know. For some reason, I did not go for the very logical knight takes c5, because then I'm attacking this. So now my opponent is forced to move the pawn. So then rook takes f4, and my opponent will have to do his best to convert this. And it's not easy at all for my opponent. It's not easy at all. And since I can't create a pass pawn here, it can get really tricky. But me, with my potato head, decided to take the bishop, not realizing that if my opponent wants to go for this endgame, they can play d8 queen anyway. But now they're not forced. They don't have to do this. They can play any other move. They can just take my pawn on c4 and destroy me. Because after rook takes c4, how do I stop the pawn? How do I stop the pawn? Because if I go back with my rook takes e4, rook d8, rook d4, and this pawn is just moving forward. The other pawn joins, and I'm not in time to catch up here at all. So that's when I realized I just blew the game completely. I had the one chance here, well, second chance, to maybe come back and make a draw somehow. And instead I allow this, and now knight f6, I have to give up my rook to take the pawn, and now rook d4, and the last couple of moves were just made to see how my opponent would convert. And after rook c6, I thought, okay, I'm done. I processed the last 10 moves in the time that I spent here, and I thought it's all right. I accept the defeat. Really, really depressing way to lose, because not only did I lose in such a way that, I had such a good game. I was feeling it, I was doing so well, and I was really in the zone, and I felt like I was holding my own really well despite being in the worst position most of the game. And also I played against such a strong opponent, and I thought, if I draw or win this game, let's assume, let's say I drew this game, then I would be playing against a similarly rated opponent, or close to my rating somewhat. I don't know. I would be playing a strong opponent still, which is good for my norm chances. But now that I lost, not only did I lose in this sad way, but I also lost my norm chances, because my next round opponent is an 1800. So yeah, I'm a little bit sad about that, but it is what it is. I tried my best. I'm still proud of myself for making it so difficult for my opponent and not collapsing right away. And I'm just happy to know that I can find resources. I'm just not consistent enough in the game. It's really difficult to keep up the consistency. And I think my main issue this game was time management. In certain situations, I'm spending 10 to 20 minutes on moves that I just should not be spending time on. I should just decide, okay, you have this move and that move, just pick any, because both of them are good. And that's my main problem right now. So yeah, that is definitely something I need to work on. I need to play faster. I think it comes with a lack of confidence that I want to be extra careful against the stronger players. And I guess also against the weaker players, because I really don't want to lose against them. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm going to do my best for tomorrow. I'm going to take some rest now because I'm super tired after such a long day. And yeah, I would like to thank you guys for watching. Thanks so much for the support. 3 more rounds to go, and we're gonna make it a good finish. I want to have a good finish, so let's do our best. I'll see you guys in the next recap. Ciao!